Brian, we've already talked to you about prison evangelism, but there are other areas of evangelism and outreach that you've been involved in. One of them, of course, I think is hospital evangelism. And of course, any pastor is involved in hospital evangelism. And lay people can be involved in that as well. Mm-hmm. And also in the area of the rest home, the place where folks many times are rehabilitation centers, and then even in our times, the word I'm trying to reach is
hospice.
Hospice,
Mm-hmm.
Hospice care. Yeah, thank you. And hospice care. Tell me something. When you go into those places, do you find people more ready to hear the message than they might be in someplace else, in hospital and so forth? Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, the nursing home ministry and hospital care ministry is very difficult in that the people that you're working with are already physically compromised in some way. Some of them are mentally compromised. My first experience in nursing home ministry was at a wing of the nursing home where all the incoherent people were.
Wow.
And so I began trying to relate my ministry to them in a way that could reach them, because you did not get a lot of feedback. And that's why some people find it depressing or difficult to do nursing home work, is because of the, sometimes they say it's the smell, sometimes they say it's the feedback that they get from the people that they're working with. But I find that nursing homes and hospitals are a great place for evangelism. And in fact, it's a place that's overlooked, because there are people whose families do not come to visit them. They are very receptive, especially if you have a church or a situation where you can bring family members in, people of all ages. I've always said that my daughter and my son helped me do more hospital and nursing home ministry than anybody else.
Okay.
They got the doors open
yes.
and greased the wheels for wonderful conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because a lot of these people are hungry and starving just for companionship, for people to come in and spend time with them. That if you go in with the object of, I want to be a minister to their needs and to give them some time, they're going to respond to the gospel.
Is there any particular one thing that a person should know about hospital evangelism? What are some of what are some of the no-nos, I might say?
Well, with regard to restrictions in hospitals, it's not like it used to be. 20 years ago, you could go into a hospital, you could identify where you were from and your name, and especially if they trusted you, you could basically go to almost any hospital room that you could.
Yeah.
You have to be very careful, especially ICU ministry, where you're going to visit somebody who's in the ICU, intensive care. They are very strict about who can know information. Mm-hmm. And in fact, I'd say one of your no-nos is it's so easy to start off a conversation with, how are you feeling, or what has the doctor said? Mm-hmm. But that is not what you do in this day and age of privacy and privacy issues. Especially if a nurse hears you start off with that, then that raises questions about whether you're there to collect information or whether you're there to minister.
Wow.
So in this day and age, you're there to be a help, to be a minister, bring your materials in, and even be willing to show them to a hospital administrator so that they know that you're above board, that you're not coming in to collect information, you're there to distribute and disseminate encouragement and help.
That's good advice, Brian. Brian, what are some of the things that you can do in a nursing home that you might not be able to do in a hospital?
In a nursing home, you can get with the activities director, and the activities director is going to be your point of contact, almost like the chaplain at the jail, because once you get in with the activities director and they know you're serious about doing ministry there, then that opens up, to have holiday type parties where the gospel can be presented. You can get on their roster of services so that your church can come in and present a service, maybe once a month or once a week. There are also, in this day and age, many connected networks of nursing care facilities. And once you get in with the activities director of a nursing center, then there may be connected a care center where the people that live in there only need their medications distributed to them, and so they're self-sufficient. So you can go into that self-sufficiency wing and do work there, and that's exciting when you can really kind of expand your ministry and be working in 2 or 3 that are all connected in a network together.
Well, you've done this for a long time. Tell me one story. Tell me something that kind of sticks out in your mind as an experience that you've had.
Okay. I'll tell you about a woman named Ruth. Ruth came into a nursing care facility that was in our area. She initially had just broken her hip. They had to do hip replacement, so she needed just rehab. But she was elderly, and it wasn't very long that they realized that rehab was going to turn into something more. She was going to be there long term. They put her in the assisted living care center, but this is one of these situations where my daughter really helped. My daughter started just climbing up into this woman's lap as soon as she was able to handle the weight of a small child. And the entire time that my daughter was sitting there, this woman was wrapped in attention to talk with anybody that was, related to my daughter, to be honest. And so my daughter basically met her when she was like 3 or 4 years old. And this woman proceeded to be in the assisted living home for a number of years, and eventually came to know Christ at a service we had in the assisted living care center. She was a former teacher, and she then found that she could teach some of the songs that we were singing. So she came over to the nursing home, which was across the parking lot, and led the songs for our nursing home's service. And we got to see the Lord really work in her life. She eventually, about 4 or 5 years into this relationship, became very ill and went across the parking lot to the nursing home. And she lived with a roommate. And she would sing those songs, but her face would light up when my daughter would walk in the room, and we got to present Christ to her roommate because of that relationship, and her roommate got saved.
Praise God.
And I was there when Ruth passed away. And the neat thing was that Ruth told me the best thing that ever happened to her was to be able to be there when her roommate accepted Christ as Savior. So a lot of times people just kind of put these folks on the shelf and they can't be useful, they can't be used. Well, she was a minister for the glory of God after she came to know Christ as Savior.
One last thing, Brian. Do you have any word of advice for people that might be interested in going into the hospitals or into these nursing homes?
I would say that you need to go in with great flexibility and patience. The folks that you're ministering to need time, and they need time with you. We never schedule time as far as we're only going to be here for an hour, because you couldn't schedule time that way. And I would even say that for the hospital as well. Too many ministers go in with an agenda and they try and get in, get out, and move on. And unfortunately, that's all these people need is your time. It's the greatest gift that you can give them.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.